Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Spencer Ferreira.
And I'm Eliza Kosten. Several commemoration ceremonies will be held this week following the October 7th attacks in Israel last year. Hundreds of people gathered at the Museum of Tolerance to commemorate the attacks. Candles were lit to represent the lives lost. The Hamas attacks killed 1,400 people and took over 100 hostages.
Israel launched several airstrikes in Beirut, which targeted the suburbs. It is being described as one of the most intense bombings of the current war. Israel also launched several airstrikes in Beirut, which targeted weapon storage facilities. Over 1,400 people have been killed by Israeli air attacks over the past month. Hezbollah launched 5 rockets back at Israel in the city of Haifa. That attack resulted in 8 people being injured.
Columbia University administrators have announced a change to campus access following protests. Guests will be permitted on campus, but will need to go through the registration process. This comes after the campus became the site of protests demanding a ceasefire earlier this year. In other news, Hurricane Milton has been upgraded to a Category 5 across the Gulf of Mexico. Wind speeds increased by over 90 miles an hour in less than a day, totaling over 175 miles an hour. People are preparing and doing anything they can to minimize the damage. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says there is still time for people to evacuate. It is currently on track to hit Florida, centered over St. Petersburg, with parts over Tampa.
A new virus is on the rise that can be found in mosquitoes. The CDC says this is a very serious infection, that 30% of people who contract this virus can die. At the moment, there have been 12 cases and 6 confirmed deaths in Massachusetts. Massachusetts authorities say if you do manage to survive, the chances of fully recovering are slim and you are most likely to be permanently disabled. While this disease can be easy to catch, you can't spread it.
A Frontier Airlines flight caught fire when landing in Las Vegas. The fire was located on the right engine of the plane, and the tires of the aircraft blew after a hard landing. All passengers and crew were evacuated safely. The cause of the fire is still under investigation.
The vice presidential debate was full of important conversations and key topics surrounding the economy as well as reproductive rights. Alexa Kosten has all the details surrounding the debate.
Ohio Senator J.D. Vance and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz took to the debate stage detailing their party's positions on pressing issues, including the economy.
I know a lot of you are struggling. I know a lot of you are worried about paying the bills. It's going to stop when Donald Trump brings back common sense to this country.
Kamala Harris has said to do the things she wants to do, we'll just ask the wealthiest to pay their fair share.
Reproductive rights.
Let the individual states make their abortion policy.
Just mind your own business on this. Things worked best when Roe versus Wade was in place.
With Hurricane Helene recovery efforts ongoing, the vice presidential nominees were asked about the urgent issue of climate change.
We want as robust and aggressive as a federal response as we can get to save as many lives as possible, and then, of course, afterwards, to help the people.
Just hours before the debate, Iran launched a missile attack on Israel. Walz explained that Vice President Harris represents the steady leadership we need, while Vance said he and former President Trump would bring back stability.
Smart diplomacy and peace through strength is how you bring stability back to a very broken world. Donald Trump has already done it once before.
Our coalition is strong, and we need the steady leadership that Kamala Harris is providing.
Alexa Kosten, Valley View News.
Alexa, thank you for that. Vice presidential nominee Tim Walz has kicked off a 3-day West Coast campaign. Walz will join in on a virtual interview on the podcast Smartless, as well as a late-night appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris is also preparing for interviews with her CBS 60 Minutes interview airing tonight.
Ahead of the presidential election, former President Trump visited the disaster made by Hurricane Helene and is looking at all the prep for the incoming Hurricane Milton.
A Russian court has sentenced a 72-year-old U.S. citizen who is accused of fighting as a mercenary for Ukraine amid the ongoing Russian invasion. Judge Alexandra Kovalevskaya at Moscow City Court sentenced the defendant named Stephen Hubbard to nearly 7 years in prison. The sentence has also taken into account that Hubbard has been in custody since 2022. His trial only became public last month when his trial started in Moscow.
As we edge even closer to Election Day, it's fair to say gun laws cross the mind of every American citizen. Our Tony Santos has more on how the Second Amendment could conflict with the latest gun measures.
Over the past year, Governor Newsom has signed an abundance of bills, but what stands out are the new gun control measures. This is because many people have a strong attachment to the Second Amendment.
The gun control only affect the citizens, not the criminal. Because the gun is not a toy to play with. Gun is really serious thing. I mean, if you don't know how to operate it, or you just take it as a joke, or you're careless about it, yeah, you will hurt somebody. Especially kids, they don't think those things.
Now, you may or may not be aware, but gun violence is a leading cause of death for children and teens across the nation, but perhaps that can change with these newest measures.
I like to be free, and that's what this stands for. I want to be, how much guns I have or how much ammunition I can have, allowed to have, and not to just restrict it, you know? And this gun law is really, actually, it's choking the citizens.
A measure that received bipartisan support from the legislature is geared towards eliminating ghost guns. Guns that are marked for destruction by law enforcement must be permanently demolished in order to ensure they are not repurposed.
Gun doesn't kill people. People kill people. My gun's in my safe. This is 40 years. He didn't kill nobody.
Tony, thank you. The Georgia Supreme Court has reinstated the state's 6-week abortion ban. The Supreme Court's ruling will take effect while the court reviews an appeal from a lower court that had struck down the law. The state's near-total abortion ban took effect in 2022, but faced legal challenges after the reversal of Roe v. Wade.
The Supreme Court has rejected R. Kelly's federal sex crimes conviction. R. Kelly is already serving a 30-year sentence for sex trafficking, and Kelly said to the Supreme Court that he was wrongly prosecuted under federal law. However, federal prosecutors declined to respond to his appeal.
The mother of Sean Diddy Combs has released a statement on social media regarding the recent allegations made against him. She claims that her son is being judged for a narrative created out of lies. She says that she is also heartbroken by the allegations that are being made against him. Diddy has charges against him including sex trafficking and racketeering.
The case of Eric and Lyle Menendez is being re-examined after more than 35 years after killing their parents. New evidence is being brought to an LA District Attorney's office that alleges sexual abuse from the parents. District Attorney George Gascon says they will review the new evidence. The question of this case isn't about whether they committed the murders, instead it's about how at fault they are. The brothers argue they acted in self-defense after years of abuse from their father. The case has gained a new wave of popularity after the Netflix docuseries was released. Kim Kardashian is advocating for their release, claiming they had no chance at a fair trial. A hearing is scheduled for November 26th.
More to come on Valley View News. The LA community is coming together to acknowledge Breast Cancer Awareness Month. The Rose Parade's next Grand Marshal has been revealed. And everything you need to know about Amazon Prime Day. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed.
In 4 days. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children. She didn't know what to do.
Did you have a good day at school?
She gave them some broth without any bread.
There you go.
And kissed them all soundly.
Night night.
Good night. And put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back. Hundreds of people came together to spread awareness on breast cancer and honor survivors at Exposition Park last weekend. The annual Susan G. Komen More Than Pink Walk is an effort to make a difference in the fight against breast cancer. Many sponsors were at the event in support of the Susan G. Komen Foundation, which is the world's leading nonprofit breast cancer organization. Families all over LA joined the walk to support the movement. The title More Than Pink reinforces the movement that pink is more than just a color, and it's not enough just to wear pink.
2 U.S. scientists won the Nobel Prize in Medicine. Victor Ambros and Gary Ruvkun were recognized for their work on the discovery of microRNA. It is a molecule that controls how the cells in the body function. They discovered how genes give rise to different types of cells, which is a process called gene regulation. A professor at Stockholm University says that this discovery is groundbreaking and affects all fields of biology and medicine.
Billie Jean King has been named Grand Marshal of the 2025 Rose Parade. Billie Jean King is a former tennis champion and gender equality advocate. King has spent years ranked #1 as a tennis player in the world. She is also the founder of the Women's Tennis Association and the Women's Sports Foundation.
Mexican Mayor Alejandro Arcos was murdered just 1 week after he took office. Local media confirmed that he was decapitated. Arcos' murder comes just days after another city official, Francisco Tapia, was killed. At least 24 politicians have been murdered leading up to June's election due to a violent electoral process.
A person was stabbed at Soldier Field after a Bears game. The incident happened after the Bears' home game against the Carolina Panthers. The man was arrested and the victim is in the hospital but is expected to be okay. The circumstances surrounding the stabbing are unknown at this point.
Al Pacino has revealed that he nearly died from COVID back in 2020. The 84-year-old actor revealed that at one point he didn't have a pulse. Pacino says that he was revived by paramedics and doctors in his living room. Pacino's experience is also detailed in his autobiography, which is being published this week.
Verizon has experienced another outage just 1 week after having one. The most recent outage took place Monday morning and only lasted a few minutes. People in Chicago, New York City, and Philadelphia were those who were mostly affected. The issue is now resolved, but Verizon did not reveal what caused the outage.
Roughly 426,000 healthcare workers are expected to benefit from a bill that will see workers paid $25 an hour. The state's lowest paid healthcare workers can expect to gradually rise to the new minimum wage over the next couple of years. However, depending on the type of facility you work in, some employees may not reach $25 an hour until 2033. Director of the Department of Healthcare Services, Michelle Bass, says the healthcare minimum wage should come into effect at the end of this month.
New York City's curbside composting program is now available in all 5 boroughs. The program started in Queens and Brooklyn, but the expansion will now include Manhattan, the Bronx, and Staten Island. The composting collection will now be made every week as recycling pickup.
Last week was SoCal Transit Week, an event sponsored by Move LA meant to encourage more people to take green modes of transportation. Valley View's Jess Brumana took a ride to West Hollywood to learn more about what's in store for the streets.
It's SoCal Transit Week, and people are getting pumped, but not gas pumped, to ride public transportation. Here in West Hollywood, riders, local government, and transit officials are all gathered here to see what's moving in the world of transportation.
We've had a series of events throughout the week, ending tomorrow on October 6th, and we're just excited to be bringing riders together. We organized SoCal Transit Week as a way for riders to come up with great ideas.
For the very first year, Move LA's partnered with transit agencies around SoCal to get people to explore their options. From the bus to the train, they say there's a lot to gain.
The best thing that we can do, though, to improve safety on the system is to actually have more riders, because there's safety in numbers, and so the more people that actually ride, the safer and better the system's going to be.
As a part of the festivities, the WeHo Mobility Expo aims not just to show what's available, but also what's to come. For this area, that's the K-Line rail extension.
We have all these giant community events in West Hollywood. Pride draws like 500,000 people in June. Halloween is not quite as many, but still fairly significant. So, when that happens, if traffic grinds to a halt. For those big events, having rail service in the city will be transformational.
But the big ticket project for LA transit planners? The 2028 Olympics.
I mean, there's no way you're going to have tens of thousands of people driving to stadiums. One thing that I'm hopeful, and one thing that we've started talking about to our neighboring cities, is trying to roll out some additional bus lanes before the Olympics, because bus lanes are essentially, paint. We could go out and build those tomorrow.
There's a lot of ways to get around city, and even more to come. So move it, LA. I'm Jess Brumana for Valley View News.
Jess, thank you. Look out for some big deals. Amazon Prime Day is here. Prime Day starts October 8th and will end October 9th. This October Prime Day is knocking down prices just in time for the upcoming holiday season. Only customers with an Amazon Prime membership have access to these deals.
Some very exciting news for Disney fans. Anne Hathaway has confirmed she's returning to Genovia with Princess Diaries 3. The iconic Disney movie series has remained in the hearts of many 25 years later. The new film is currently in the works with Disney and will be directed by Adele Lim.
The sequel to Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga, suffered from an even worse box office debut than initially expected. The sequel brought in $37 million in its first weekend of release, as its initial tracking was near $70 million. This is compared to the first Joker movie that earned $96 million in its opening weekend.
Just in time for the spooky season, a new horror series will air on Peacock this month. The show follows a diverse group of people in rural Georgia who must unite to face a mysterious and deadly threat. It is inspired by the novel called Stinger by Robert R. McCammon. The first episode will air this week.
We have an inspiring story about a San Francisco woman who honored her late daughter by biking on a gruesome trek across the ocean on a water cycle.
I think a lot of people thought I was crazy.
That could be said about Jessica Schiller's dream of starting a water bike company 10 years ago, and definitely about her latest life challenge.
The first ever bike ride to the Farallon Islands.
60 miles from the Golden Gate Bridge to the southeast Farallon Islands, a water bike challenge no one has taken on before. For a reason.
I knew that there was going to be rough seas, strong currents, wind, and of course, it's great white shark migration season.
So starting before sunrise Friday, Schiller began her grueling trek.
The equivalent to this on land would be like doing probably 150 miles straight on land.
With a special someone always on her mind, pushing her forward.
I call this Naomi's Ride in honor of the promise I made to my daughter Naomi, who sadly passed away from a fentanyl overdose in July of 2022.
That promise came true in 10 hours.
I felt her when I was there, when I had made it to the islands, and my first emotion was I broke down and cried.
Proceeds from Schiller's ride will go toward the nonprofit Shatterproof, which fights the addiction crisis in America. But beyond that, Schiller hopes her journey serves an even bigger purpose to all.
I hope the lasting impact from this is that it just inspires people. It inspires people to get out of their shell, to do something that you didn't think was possible, to really step out of your comfort zone. And that's the way we grow as human beings.
Wow, such a heartwarming story. Parts of California experienced an excessive heat warning over the past weekend. Temperatures reached 105 degrees in Santa Clarita. Northern California saw temperatures reach well into the hundreds. The game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Arizona Cardinals was the hottest game ever recorded at Levi Stadium. Speaking of the weather, Alexa, how have you felt about our weather recently?
It's very hot, and I think I'm finally ready for fall weather. What about you?
I agree with you. Well, let's take it over to our weather anchor, Jess Brumana, who has more.
Thanks, you guys. Though I wouldn't count on fall weather anytime soon, it's going to be hot. As you mentioned, many parts of California are still under a heat advisory, including here in Los Angeles. Hot weather is dangerous, and heat-related illnesses are no joke, but there are ways to stay safe. Be sure to drink plenty of water and hydrate with electrolyte drinks if you need to. When you can, stay out of direct sunlight and find shade if you need to be outdoors for an extended period of time. Seniors, children, and those with pre-existing health conditions are at most risk. Dizziness, nausea, heavy sweating, or complete lack of sweat are all early signs of heat stroke. Catch the early show, treat the symptoms early so you can avoid getting seriously sick. Over on the East Coast, Hurricane Milton is on its way to the southeast. Communities are scrambling to make preparations while still dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. As of Monday, 227 people have been confirmed to be killed. Rescue officials are unsure how many more people are unaccounted for, but many displaced residents are still looking for loved ones even a week since landfall. In North Carolina, roads have been extremely damaged, and the Department of Transportation has implemented travel restrictions. Non-essential travel is banned in the western part of the state, and multiple highways on the border of Tennessee are closed. The Biden administration has sent North Carolina DOT $100 million in immediate funds to repair freeways and reopen damaged streets. Now, for the local forecast. Here in the valley, it's going to be in the hotter side. At the very hot start of the week, breaking into the 90s, though most of the days that'll be in the upper 80s temperatures. You'll see at the end of the week, though, that weather is going to burn off. Lows will stay around the 60-degree mark, but you can still expect a very warm evening. Heading over to the beaches, it won't be as sunny in the valley. There's going to be overcast most days of the week. You can expect a lot of humidity. Highs are going to stay in that 60 to low 70 area. There's not going to be a lot of variation in the temperature. You'll notice here there's generally not more than 10-degree difference from the highest and the lowest throughout the day. Weather should be pretty consistent over in the beaches, throughout the whole week. Going inland, cities are going to be sunny, but unlike the valley, it'll be much cooler. There's still going to be that weekend heat wave capping out at the mid-80s and through the week. It should stay, around that 80-degree mark overall. Lows will be in the low 60s. This weekend, all of LA's home teams are playing away. Stay with us. Up ahead, we have a recap of LA football bummers, Dodgers playoff troubles, and more on Valley View News.
All right, pal.
Hey, Dad. Do we have a gun?
What's that?
Do we have a gun?
Why do you ask that, kiddo?
Can I play with it?
No, absolutely not. It's not a toy. You know that. Anyway, I need it to protect you, your sister, and Mom.
But what about the 8 kids who get shot every day by mistake?
Where'd you hear that?
Where do you keep it?
It's hidden.
I bet it's on the top shelf of the closet, under your sweatshirts. Is it loaded? Remember when I found my Christmas gift? You always told me to be curious.
No, that's not what I meant.
And when it's just me and Mom, I could use the gun to protect her.
No, Justin, I promise. I'm always here for you.
But Dad, you're not always here.
My name's Stacy, I'm 57, and I was adopted in 2020. One teen can come in and make you look at life in a whole different way.
He's my father, so I look up to him a lot. If I can be 10% of the man he is, I'll be a happy person for sure.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Welcome back to Valley View News. As always, it was a big weekend in sports. Alexa, did you happen to catch any of the games?
I did. I got to watch the Dodgers versus the Padres, the first game when they won. I hear you watched the first and the second.
I did, and, it was unfortunate that they lost that second game in the way that they did, but hopefully they'll be able to bounce back, because they are one of our local teams, and we want to see them succeed. More on our local teams is our sports anchor, Charlie Gonzalez. Charlie?
Thank you, Spencer. It was a crazy weekend in sports, particularly here in LA. UCLA's busiest travel season continued Saturday with a game at Penn State. It was a defensive slugfest through the first quarter and a half. The Nittany Lions scored first on a 1-yard rushing touchdown by Drew Alar, but UCLA elected to go for it in the first quarter instead of kicking a field goal. Following that drive, the Bruins offense went stagnant until garbage time. Penn State slowly gathered a rhythm, scoring on 4 of their next 5 drives. Bruins sophomore quarterback Justin Martin had his first start of the season with Ethan Garbers questionable throughout practice this week. Martin went 22 for 30 and 1 touchdown late in the game. Penn State remains undefeated with a 27-11 victory. UCLA will host the Minnesota Golden Gophers on Saturday. Speaking of which, the USC Trojans had a road game against the Golden Gophers later in that day. 1 week before they faced Penn State in an opponent swap with their crosstown rivals, USC entered the game ranked 11th in the AP poll, and on the flip side, Minnesota was unranked with a 2-3 record. Each team started out slow on offense, with the first points coming in the final seconds of the first quarter. A pair of field goals and touchdowns for both squads had the game tied at halftime. USC quarterback Miller Moss had a rough game, throwing 2 interceptions and averaging just 5.3 yards per attempt. Running back Woody Marks had a rushing touchdown in the third quarter, but Minnesota quarterback Max Brosmer had one of his own, tying the game at 17. After reviewing the tush push on 4th and goal, it was ruled a touchdown. Minnesota took the lead with less than a minute left. The dagger was an end zone interception by Koi Perick. University of Minnesota fans stormed the field after their upset win over a ranked team. LA's football woes continued in the pros as well. The Rams hosted the Green Bay Packers in a game where both teams were coming off a loss. Packer fans made it a 50-50 to about a 60-40 crowd, with Go Pack Go chants audible and loud throughout the day. Josh Jacobs punched it in from 2 yards out after Jordan Love threw a 53-yard pass to set up 1st and goal. Still without Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, they relied on Colby Parkinson and Jordan Whittington, whom each had 7 receptions. Pinned back deep with the game tied, Jordan Love tries throwing the ball away to avoid a safety, but ends up throwing a pick 6 instead. On the first drive of the second half, Kyron Williams fumbled in Packers territory, swaying the momentum in favor of Green Bay. The Pack scored 17 unanswered points going back to their field goal before halftime and picked off Matthew Stafford to keep the Rams' offense at bay. A late surge with a touchdown and a failed 2-point conversion, then a subsequent 3-and-out by the Packers were not enough. Green Bay safety Xavier McKinney had his 5th consecutive game with an interception. The Rams head into the bye week at 1-4, coming at a crucial time when they are depleted at the wide receiver position. The Packers look ahead to their home game against the Arizona Cardinals, who had an upset win at the 49ers on Sunday. The MLB Divisional Series began with Games 1 and 2 of the NLDS taking place over the weekend. Yoshinobu Yamamoto started in Game 1, switching places with Jack Flaherty, who was the starting pitcher in Game 2. The Dodgers found themselves down 3-0 in the first inning, giving fans flashbacks of last year's NLDS Game 1 against Arizona, but then what baseball fans have been waiting for years, Shohei Ohtani hits a 3-run homer in the postseason to tie the game in the second. And the fans knew it immediately. They all stood up as they saw the exit velocity on the ball. The Padres took the lead back in the third inning on a 2 RBI double by Xander Bogaerts. Jackson Merrill and Fernando Tatis scored. Those would be the final runs of the day for San Diego. Their happiness was short-lived as Teoscar Hernandez hit a 2 RBI single, giving the Dodgers a 6-5 lead. The final play of the game was a strikeout by Manny Machado. Relief pitcher Ryan Brazier earned the win, and Blake Trinan got the save. Final score, Dodgers 7, Padres 5. Games 3 and 4 of the NLDS will be held in San Diego.
Thank you, Charlie. The infamous Krabby Patty will be hitting Wendy's restaurants this week. Wendy's is partnering with Paramount in honor of the 25th anniversary of SpongeBob SquarePants. The Krabby Patty collab will feature 2 new menu items, including the iconic Krabby Patty burger and a pineapple under the sea Frosty. The new menu launches on October 8th. That's all for us at Valley View News. I'm Alexa Kosten.
And I'm Spencer Ferreira. For stories any time of day, see our YouTube channel at Valley View News and our Instagram page at Valley View News CSUN.